Hey Zwifters, welcome back to another review video. It's going to be an in-depth review of the Zwift Play controllers, which were just recently released, and this is going to be a video going over the specs, how it works, my thoughts, and ultimately leading to the question of whether it is worth it for you to buy. Let's dive into the video. Alright, so first off, a quick overview of this device. The Play controllers were released in June of 2023, and they're meant to take control of Zwift and all through the fingertips, so you really don't have to reach for the keyboard or reach for the Apple TV remote or touch the screen. You don't have to do any of that now with these controllers. These can pretty much control everything in the game, so you can just use those to navigate Zwift, and this can do things like steering, things like changing your bike, things like increasing power for FTP workouts and stuff like that, and it really does bring a whole new dimension to Zwift. It makes things a lot easier. But ultimately, is it worth it? That's a question I'm going to be answering later on in this video. So the controllers come in at a price of $99.99 for the first few weeks of sales, because Zwift is trying to get more people to purchase the product so that they can do more beta testing, because the product is technically still in beta. So they're going to be getting feedback from the community to try to enhance the product and improve the firmware so that it is ready for it to go out of beta and be a fully polished device. So once it is out of beta, or once this initial sale period ends, it's going to be $150, and that's going to be across multiple currencies. So that's going to be USD, euros, and pounds. So it's going to cover most of the European Union. But another big thing is that since the Zwift shop does not ship to Canada, people in Canada can't really purchase this device. Neither can people in other parts of the world that are a bit more remote than the mainstream European Union and United States. So the setup of this device is really simple. All you have to do, take it out of the box, and it already comes mostly charged, so you won't need to charge it for a few rides, and you can actually charge while you're riding. So one of the things is that it does have these little straps here, so you'll have to fasten this around your handlebar, and it'll kind of just like sit like this sort of on your handlebars, and you'll be able to hit the buttons like this. It's pretty simple the way that it is set up, and I have a quick video of that showing on the screen right now, so you can see how it's being set up on an actual road bike. And note that it is not compatible with flat bar bikes or TT bikes and other bikes that don't have the standard drop bars. However, people have found workarounds, and I do have that link in the description below for those of you who are not on a road bike that do still want to get involved in the action. Alright, just a quick note, if you are enjoying this video, please hit that like, subscribe button. It really does help support the channel, and with that, let's continue on with the video. So in terms of the use of this actual product, it can be used, as I said, to navigate all sorts of things. So here's a quick rundown of the buttons. So first off, starting with the right controller, which is going to have the A, B, C, D controls. Control A is to select or confirm an action, and B is to use to go back, which is pretty standard across most game controllers. And then actually, sorry, there's no C on this controller. It's actually replaced by Z. So Z can be used to return a ride-on with just one tap when you do receive a ride-on in the game. But if you hold it, it does give a burst of ride-ons to 5 riders around you. That's the same function that is available in the companion app, but now it is available on your fingertips, so you don't have to reach for the phone and fumble with that. Also, Y does activate a power-up. So I personally, this is one of the places that I didn't really enjoy, and I'm going to be going over more of that in my thoughts. You can actually use the chapters below to navigate to that section, and you can use Y to activate a power-up. That's very useful during a race, because you no longer have to reach across the keyboard to try to activate your power-up. You can now just click that button and it's activated. So moving on to the left side. The left side is pretty straightforward too, because it is just up, down, back, right arrows. And the only thing that you wouldn't expect is that you need to hold down the up arrow, hold down the down arrow to increase or decrease FTP stuff in a workout mode. And I'm gonna have a little description of that above. You're probably seeing that right now. And yeah, that just about wraps it up for the actual buttons. But now let's move on to the paddle. So there's actually a paddle that allows you to steer to the right or to the left. It also allows you to brake, and that's something that's pretty new in Zwift. And previously you could not brake at all unless you entered the pairing screen. So now you can just push inward on any of the paddles and it'll allow you to brake, and it brakes really, really quick. So just note that if you're trying to slow down slightly, I would not recommend using that. And now tilting the paddles outward is used for steering, and that's really useful, especially when going on the all-new Repack Rush course, and that is now available for those who do have steering. I personally haven't found these controllers to be that useful, and this is sort of my thoughts section. So one of the big things that I didn't like was the location of the power up button, and I would like it to be a more accessible place. So having it towards the paddle side where you would normally have electronic shifting, for those of you who use a kicker bike or something like that, that's sort of what I'm referring to. That side button, I would really like that to be a power up button or a custom button that you can kind of choose to use how you'd like. But Zwift might have other plans for that button, so that may be the reason why they didn't make that the power up button. But currently, when it's on the hoods and you're trying to push down, it's not the best location for a power up button, especially in that finishing situation where you really want to be in the drops and just have a place to press the button. So having something like the commander device, or just a manually built one that does the same job but in a location that you get to choose, I would find that a lot more useful. In terms of when I'm actually using this, I hardly use the controllers at all. I found that I'm just using the keyboard for most of the things. I don't really do much when I'm in the actual Zwift game, other than just going to intersections and stuff like that. But I've just been manually programmed to just use the companion app or press the arrow keys or just tap it on the screen. I just found that to be a lot easier. But I do understand for those who are using Apple TV, this can definitely be a very welcome change that can really enhance the experience and make it a lot more easier than using that Apple TV remote to navigate everywhere on Zwift. One of the main places where I found myself actually using these controllers is the Repack Rush course, which I found to be pretty interesting, but it's not something that would just make me want to come to Zwift because I want to ride the Repack Rush course. That's not really how it is for me. It's just it makes steering a lot more dynamic than using the Elite Steerzo, which was one of my main complaints about Steerzo, is that it's not as responsive. You kind of have designated lanes, rather than with the Zwift play controllers, you can kind of swerve around and do what you want with the steering. It's not set lanes like the Elite Steerzo. So another thing that often draws people away from buying new products, and from the previous Elite Steerzo, which was used to steer, is the price point. Now, the Zwift Play controllers are currently just under $100, but they will be bumping up to $150 soon. So that's not an amazing price for controllers like these, especially if you're not using them every day. So if you were to justify these controllers, you'd really need to be using them every day and actually use them rather than just using your companion app or using the keyboard. So that's one of the things about these Play controllers, is the pricing. So that's really going to depend on how much you're willing to spend on some controllers that they add steering, braking, and some more hands-on stuff. But really at this moment, there's nothing to really draw riders to purchasing these controllers. So one of the big debates is about steering in races. So steering in races, it's a complex topic because a lot of people feel that it really does give an advantage because you can cut into corners and get better positioning. But personally, I don't think that it gives that much of an advantage. It's not any more of an advantage than having a poorly calibrated trainer would, or having a more accessible power button, or simply just racing more and becoming more fluent with the action of sprinting and getting to know the timing right. So I've found it to be useful for racing, but cutting corners, it does not help that much. And another thing to note is that when you do cut corners, you're losing some of that draft. So you're gonna have to pedal harder than you would if you were to just stick in the draft. So I personally would have just stayed in the draft rather than cutting corners, unless it's in a finishing sprint situation. And yeah, it's a complex topic, and you can read all about that. I have a forum topic link below where a lot of people are debating this ongoing topic of whether it does give you a advantage, and how Zwift is how people are saying that Zwift is making racing more inaccessible and unfair due to these controllers because they do give a competitive advantage. Alright, so to wrap this up, is it worth it? I personally, if I were to go out and purchase this device, I probably would not end up buying it because I just don't have that much use for it. However, those of you who do have other uses for it, like for those of you who really want to use Repack Rush, or those who really want a much easier way to control Zwift, then I can certainly see this being useful and a valuable purchase. But for someone like me, I don't see it being something that I would purchase at this moment, especially because there aren't too many developments with it that you can't currently do with Zwift. So if there was something that added a complete new function, then I can see myself looking to purchase this, but at the moment there's really nothing other than braking. And Zwift hasn't really expanded that to the point where it's something that is more dynamic and kind of necessary, I guess, in the game. Another thing that people try to talk about is, as I said earlier, steering in races. I personally wouldn't steer in races. It's just too much of a hassle in my opinion. I'd rather just focus on racing and getting better positioning using power rather than just using paddles to steer around. That's sort of my take on that topic. That just about wraps it up. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like, subscribe button, and thank you all for watching. Ride on.